Alright, so I'm going to try to show you how to factor trinomials in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So first of all, we're going to be using the technique called factoring by grouping. And in order to do factoring by grouping, we need to rewrite our trinomial, the three-term expression, as a polynomial with four terms. So we're going to use our X, or the circle puzzle, to help us do that. The top portion will be the product of our A and our C, our first term, the ax squared times the c. So in this case, we're going to multiply the 7x squared times the negative 8. Then in the bottom portion, we go ahead and put our b term right there. That's the middle term, so the negative 26. Okay, at this point, we are trying to find the product, or the multiples of negative 56 that will add to be negative 26. So you could just think of all the multiples of 56. Okay, so here are all the factors, and I found the one that gives us a negative 26. That's a positive 2 and a negative 28. Okay, so once you have your two terms right here, these two terms right here, we are going to rewrite our trinomial into a polynomial with four terms, replacing this minus 26x with these two terms we just found. So once we have the four terms, we are now ready to factor by grouping. And what we do is we group the first two terms together and the last two. So just for a visual, I'm going to draw a line separating the two terms, or the two groups right there. So we're going to first factor out the GCF from these first two terms, and then second, we're going to factor out the GCF from those second two terms. Okay, so out of the first two terms, they both share an x, and that's all they have in common. So I factored this x on the outside, and inside the parentheses you have a 7x plus 2. So it's doing the distributive property in reverse. Now I'll take a look at the second group, the last two terms, and find the greatest common factor between those two terms, negative 28x and 8. Okay, so as you see, there was a negative 4 in common between the negative 28 and the negative 8, so I factored that out to minus 4, and what's left was a 7x plus 2, which that is what we're trying to get, is that 7x plus 2 on both of those. And we're going to factor one more time, because these are technically the 7x plus 2 and the 7x plus 2. Those are what we call common factors. So we're going to take the 7x plus 2 and multiply it times the remainder, x minus 4. And this will be our final answer. You could always go back and check and use your FOIL or the distributive property to see if it comes back to our original problem. And as you see, it does check out. Okay, so an attempt to recap what I did. In this circle, or the X strategy, the top portion is going to be your multiple of A times C. That's the first term times the last term. The bottom portion will be whatever the middle term was. In this case, it was negative 26. And then you're supposed to find the new middle term so that you could rewrite it in as a polynomial with four terms, because we started off with three terms. We want four terms. And once you have the four terms, you break it up and factor the first two, or factor out the GCF out of the first two terms, and then you factor out the GCF out of the second two terms, creating a common binomial, which gets factored out from that result and ending up with a product of two binomials, usually distinct binomials or different binomials. So I'm hoping this works. If you have any questions, let me know, and I can try again, and hopefully I have all my stuff for that. All right, well, good luck.